We are very honored today to have Sherron Watkins. She is the Enron whistleblower, a legacy whistleblower, a light in the whistleblower world, and we're so delighted to have you here, Sherron. Thank you for appearing on one of our vignettes for National Whistleblower Week.
Well, Jane, thank you so much for inviting me to join you.
We're delighted because you are a star in the heaven, the pantheon of whistleblower heaven. Tell us, how can we help one another in the whistleblowing world? You must have some good advice because you're a legacy whistleblower. You've been doing this for a long time.
Well, the Enron scandal happened just over 20 years ago. So I have been, for more or less that period of time, known as the Enron whistleblower. And I would say, certainly, every whistleblower needs a really, really savvy whistleblower attorney in their corner. But after you've managed to get that, which is not always easy, I think emotional support, or at least being ready to understand how your life has changed, is important. We almost need a collection of whistleblower stories so people can see they're not alone with what they're experiencing.
That is excellent advice. What words of support or advice would you give to other whistleblowers?
Well, I certainly don't want to complain, because I'm one of the few whistleblowers with a really wonderful story. I mean, Time magazine named me, Colleen Raleigh of the FBI, and Cynthia Cooper of WorldCom as their Persons of the Year in 2002, calling us, the whistleblowers. I have spoken around the globe on ethics and leadership and the warning signs of an Enron-like scandal. So I have had a nice time of it. However, there are drawbacks. Your life really will change, and you won't have the same friendships. Things that you just take for granted, in all kinds of areas of your life, won't really be the same. And I think people need to prepare for that. There is a period of time where the press, the journalists, the academicians are just really putting you on a pedestal and so happy for your courage and that you spoke truth to power. But they go on to the next news item. But the people that your testimony has hurt, they still hold a grudge, and they still kind of come after you, attacking your credibility or your motives, and they seem to almost never go away. And then that impacts your relationships at future work, at church, at social events, at your children's outings. There are just those naysayers that stay on the attack. And I think whistleblowers that are new to the scene, it would be helpful to be more aware of that, I think.
Truly excellent advice. What would you like to tell people about whistleblowers?
Well, more often than not, they're very optimistic. They're thinking that their warnings will result in action that will improve the situation, or prevent a future problem. And I really wish that, we didn't shoot the messenger, but I also wish that there were more reports and studies on successful whistleblowing. Companies that actually listen to employees that raise concerns and they right the ship, they correct the wrongdoing. It would be great to have more publicity around how a problem was saved because we had a great internal whistleblowing reporting system, or things in that regard, where whistleblowing is not always the disaster that we hear about when the whistleblowers aren't listened to, when they're retaliated against, when the company like Enron implodes in a wave of accounting scandals. But instead, when we can celebrate and report on things that happen that were very good because someone listened to a truth teller.
Well, during this Whistleblower Week, we are celebrating you, Sherron Watkins. You are a legacy whistleblower, and we're so proud to have you among all these whistleblowers this week. Thank you for your time.
Well, Jane, you're a legacy whistleblower too, and I'm really proud and happy to participate in any interview with you, that's for sure.
Thank you, Sherron. So welcome, Thomas, and it is so nice to have you with us on National Whistleblower Day. It's an honor to be able to interview you. I'd like to ask you a quick question if I could. How can we help one another in the whistleblower world?
Well, hi, Jane. Thank you so much for inviting me. I think the answer would be international cooperation. So many times, people blow the whistle on things that span over several countries, and sometimes there is the need for more cooperation between whistleblower NGOs and also for the information to get across to several countries. So the situation is quite different for whistleblowers for in Europe and in the US, for example, but I mean, you could consider the entire world. As I said, people get sometimes jailed when they're in another country. So international cooperation between NGOs, at least NGOs, is perhaps what I think about as the first answer that comes to mind.
Excellent advice.
Well, morally, you already know, you've already crossed the line, and there are so many people who have already morally crossed the line. So it does take courage, and you shouldn't do that lightly. And you should also be aware, I've said that last year, I think, you should be aware that your employer is almost never going to be an ally. But if you do take the step, you'll definitely meet very, very interesting people, and new doors will open.
And Thomas, as we sign off here, I'd love to know what your whistleblowing journey has taught you.
I'd say more than anything that even when everything felt contrarian to me, I ended up knowing that I ended up having the confirmation that I was in the right and that I wasn't doing something that was wrong. So yeah, going against everything that is in motion is sometimes very difficult, disheartening. But at some point, I did feel that I had made the correct decision. So it taught me that I should persevere, although it's difficult. So yeah, and also understanding that things move at a very slow pace. The inertia is something that is very present. So you need to take that into account, and even if you're hoping for things to change quickly, it's probably not going to happen that way. But you should persevere, and that's how things actually change. I think that's what I've learned, but I may be wrong because I'm not at the end of my journey, right?
Very wise words, very wise words. And I thank you for your time for National Whistleblower Day. You are a hero. Thank you
No,
so
it's my
much,
pleasure.
Thomas.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Hi, I'm Jackie Garrick. I'm the founder of Whistleblowers of America. I became a whistleblower and my world changed and things were upside down and I lost my career, my sense of mission, my sense of purpose. It was lonely, it was isolating. I didn't leave the Pentagon for another two years and it was like being the walking dead. People would avert their eyes, not want to talk to me, and it became a very lonely, isolating experience. So I started to look around, and then I was on LinkedIn and had posted some things about whistleblowing and articles and asking questions, and connected with another female veteran, and we talked on the phone. She turned out to be law enforcement and told me that she had had her gun on the table the whole time we talked, and she was now going to go put it away. She described her suicidal ideation in a way that just triggered every clinical bone in my body. And my next phone call was to an attorney. And I said, we need to incorporate this. And he said, well, what's the mission? What's the purpose? And I said, we're going to just do peer support. We're going to connect whistleblowers to whistleblowers like we've done for decades with combat veterans, and use an evidence-based approach in our peer support and a trauma-informed perspective, because I truly believed that what we were seeing was trauma. It was a different kind of combat trauma, that this hostile work environment, people saying that they were in a fight for their lives, doing battle. One woman called it being professionally gang raped, that those traumas had an impact. And like any other kind of trauma related to emotional abuse, bullying, that retaliation fit a pattern. It's those kinds of things that then lead to things like PTSD, depression, and suicidal ideation. When we look at the scope of the trauma, we can see how things like gaslighting cause you to ruminate. Like, did I really get it wrong? Why don't they believe me? Why are they saying that about me? And those ruminations become intrusive thoughts. Intrusive thoughts are symptoms of PTSD. We want people to come and be able to support one another as they go through a whistleblowing experience and are involved in these judicial proceedings. We hope that we can be making a difference by building a whistleblower protection advocate program and making those connections one person at a time, because there is hope and resilience and healing for whistleblowers. Just like with combat veterans, we can do this and we can overcome.
So, Jackie, what words of support or advice would you give to other whistleblowers? And what would you like people to know about whistleblowers?
So I think whistleblowing is a tough decision, and it's not always the best. I think you need to really make an informed decision. So getting the peer support, collecting your information, collecting your evidence, having a strategy, having a plan before you do anything, really think it through. Sit down, think it through, talk to your family, talk to, if you have like a union rep, like who in your world can help you make sense of this. Go to your pastor if that's something that really might help you. And then think about the financial commitment that this could entail and what could come of it. In an ideal world, these things go by easy, that you make a disclosure, the company is grateful, and everybody fixes problems and you drive on. That's not always the case. So if there is a prolonged judicial procedure, which can take 5 to 10 years, what are you really prepared to do? And then, we really are encouraging people to become whistleblower protection advocates so that we could grow our network of peer support.
Excellent. Thank you, Jackie. And we are so lucky to have with us today Mike, who represents Accountability FBI, an organization that he founded. Mike, it's wonderful to have you with us on National Whistleblower Day.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here.
And tell us what you think on how whistleblowers can help one another.
Well, I think first and foremost, we need to reach out and connect with each other. That's a way for us to develop our support network. And also, we learn so much from each other's experiences, as we go through the whistleblower processes that we experience. And, together, we can also get each other's stories out, and promoting each other's stories are so important because it provides us support, when we get our stories out in the public.
What would you like the public to know about whistleblowers?
Well, I think first and foremost, the public needs to understand that whistleblowers are serving the public interest, and therefore the public needs to support whistleblowers. And I think above all else, the public needs to give whistleblowers the means not only to defend themselves from retaliation, but also the public needs to support giving whistleblowers the tools to hold those who retaliate against them accountable. It's whistleblowing's hard enough as it is without being retaliated against. It's hard to stand up and be a dissenter within your institution. And what makes it, I'm not going to say impossible, but so much more difficult is the retaliation that whistleblowers experience. And so really, those who retaliate against the whistleblowers are, in a way, betraying the public trust, or really are betraying the public trust. And so we need to support whistleblowers being to hold those retaliators accountable, I think, in court. And then ultimately, it's incumbent upon the public to support that sort of measure, because those retaliators are really, again, hurting the public by hurting the whistleblowers.
Excellent advice, Mike. Excellent advice. And what advice would you give to other whistleblowers, Mike?
First and foremost, before you blow the whistle, seek legal advice and come up with a plan. There are going to be repercussions, so you have to be prepared. Also prepare yourself, your friends, and your family, because you're going to need that support network. And then, once you've blown the whistle, don't forget to take care of yourself. You're already a hero because you've blown the whistle. So, keep up the fight as long as it's still healthy for you to do so. But, you don't need to, jump on a grenade, to put it, figuratively, and destroy your whole life. Just take care of yourself. And then when it's all over, share your story, because that helps not only other whistleblowers, but it's, benefits the public as a whole to hear about your experience.
Excellent. Mike Zummer, what a pleasure to have you with us on National Whistleblower Week. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jane.
Hello, my name is Nigel MacLennan. Jane has asked me to answer 3 questions. Number 1, what advice would you give to whistleblowers? I would suggest that you try to get mental health support as soon as you possibly can, and use it as much as you possibly can, because the mental health damage that is done to most whistleblowers is absolutely devastating. It's not a sign of weakness to seek help. It's a sign of strength. Not my words, the words of Barack Obama. Make contact with as many other whistleblowers as you can. Form a mutual support group. Focus on the future. Realize that you are a person of integrity, courage, and initiative. Remember, you did the right thing while others were actively or silently complicit in fraud, corruption, mismanagement, or misgovernance, or other illegality. Second question I was asked to answer is, how can we help one another in the whistleblower world? I would suggest that we exchange ideas, provide mutual support, be a go-to person for other people in the whistleblowing community who can be relied on to provide help and support in your area of expertise. Focus on the big goal. Our big goal is protecting whistleblowers worldwide, and avoid any petty differences that actually will impede the chances of us making progress to provide the protection that we all need. Third question was, what would you like to tell people about whistleblowers? Whistleblowers are the heroes who stand up to wrongdoing. They make the world a better place for all. They have the courage and integrity to help many others at great personal cost. People who whistleblow wrongdoing are those who are responsible for making society better bit by bit, year by year, decade by decade.